Hello, I'm David Lawrence from the Wall Street Journal. I'm here with
Julia.
and
Kolya.
and we're here to bring you all the news and reviews from all things American rugby. Thanks for joining us. Let's get on with the show. Hello, cheers, and welcome to the Wall Street Journal, the American Rugby Pod that brings you all the latest news and reviews for the MLR, the WER, the women's and men's Eagles, and whatever else we can find as we cast our eyes across the USA Rugby landscape. We are part of the WRAP network and can be found, hopefully, on all your usual platforms. Julia, we were just talking beforehand. We're on Spotify. Has anyone found us on iTunes yet?
Good question. I've been asking and I'm waiting for feedback. If you, listener, are listening to this on Apple Music, please let us know, especially if it sounds good.
That's right. Kolya, I hope that you subscribe to our little show here. Where are you finding us?
On Spotify.
Well, if any of the listeners tuned in to our debut episode last week, you'll recall that I'm David Lawrence. I'm joined by Rugby Julia and Kolya. Julia, I'm curious, just in your life, what kind of rings your bell this week?
Well, we decided that we're going to go for maybe a little bit outside of rugby, and I decided to take that and run with it and go super personal. And I am very excited. I recently celebrated my sister finishing her postdoc after med school. I was at her graduation just the other day. Yeah, super thrilled. She moves up to Philadelphia.
That is a rare degree. That is awesome.
I know. She moves up to Philadelphia for a fellowship for 2 years.
Wow.
Super stoked for her. And then who knows what she's going to save someone.
What is her field?
OBGYN, but she works with complex family planning. So
wow.
She helps women on the worst days of their life and when she gets lucky, the best days. But
that really warms my heart. Kolya, I imagine you can't top that, but what do you got?
Yeah, so one of the things I love about where I am near San Antonio is we've got the San Antonio missions, the most famous of which, of course, is the Alamo. But there's this thing.
I remember that.
Yeah. There's this thing called the Camino del San Antonio Missions, which is connected to the Camino de Santiago over in Spain.
Yeah, the long walk that all the rugby players go and do on their summer breaks.
Yes.
Really?
So this past weekend, I took myself and my two girls on the San Antonio stretch of the Camino.
Wow.
How was it? Did you have good weather for it?
It actually was pretty decent.
Considering what it can be in that stretch. In that stretch.
6 a.m. so that it wasn't 95 in the shade.
And then it got there anyway.
Well, I don't really have anything too interesting this week. My son literally started summer camp today. He's a kid who gets overheated easily. And of course, it was the hottest day of the year here in Massachusetts. And so I spent the whole day in agony worrying about him, but it was fine. He was fine. And they know what they're doing and he had a fun time. And they play Gaga there. Are either of you familiar with Gaga?
Of course.
Okay.
And I would assume Kolya absolutely as a school teacher. Oh, for sure.
He loves Gaga, and they have 3 Gaga pits.
3 Gaga pits. There we go.
Yeah.
Any Bob's Burgers fans will, of course.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
There is a Gaga.
Anyway, our tradition here, our new tradition, because all our traditions are new, is to start with some news. Julia, you took the lead last week. By the way, you told us that you had an insider who might be able to tell us something about what happened with the WER and DAZN. Any actual updates there, or are we still kind of on hold?
Unfortunately, we're still on hold. I have been checking in. I wish I had something better for that because you gave me a really beautiful lead up. Unfortunately, no one's really heard that much. All we can rely on is for sure the cup final. If nothing else better gets in place, and I'm thinking something better will get in place, But if not, as we discussed last episode, you can see it on the Women's Elite Rugby website. I assume if it's there, it would be without commentary, but I really can't imagine that they would do the final without commentary. So we're standing by, and of course, whenever the pod finds out, we will totally put it out on our socials. If you're not following us, that's a good reason to do so. But we'll definitely put out a way to watch it to make sure that people can tune in.
Kolia, any updates on that front from you? Probably not.
Not for me.
Yeah. Well, like I said, all our traditions are new. In fact, this is only the second time we've talked, so we are starting with news as usual. As Neil Peart famously said, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. USA Men's Rugby, they made a choice over the last week, and hasn't gone down well. I want to do this as early as possible so I can kind of rinse my mouth out with positive talk afterwards. The Eagles, they selected Rufus McLean, current Houston Sabercat, former Scotland player, who 2 years ago was convicted of domestic abuse. In March 2023, McLean was sentenced to 120 hours of unpaid community service. He was also issued a 10-year non-harassment order prohibiting him from contacting his former partner. The court noted that the threshold for a custodial sentence had been crossed, but an alternative was chosen due to his status as a young person and his early guilty plea. Kolia, what was your reaction when you saw the squad announcement?
I was absolutely baffled. So, starting out, there's just the distaste of having someone like that connected with USA Rugby. It's not great he's with the Sabercats. The Sabercats also have a couple other players. I mentioned Drake Davis last week in a positive way.
Yes.
I'd forgotten that he has his own little issues. But when the thing about it that's baffling is I started thinking about this whole question of selection from the coach's point of view. And as a coach, you can think, okay, it may be distasteful, but if there's someone great who's done something bad, maybe we push it aside and maybe set up some sort of media blitz. The Kansas City Chiefs have done this in the NFL. There's a
Well, and
Many
Izzy
NFL teams
Folau
have done this.
is Izzy Folau, like
Izzy
that's the biggest
Folau.
one that we can think of in our own community, but that's definitely one that too much disdain has been whitewashed.
Yes.
I think
But
the same thing.
you think, is he the best winger that USA Rugby can pick from? Is
Was
he
it
one of
so
the best
desperate? Was
players?
it so desperate to bring him in?
And the answer is no.
No.
If you look on the non-traveling reserves, there
I'm
are
looking.
4 wingers there who are better than
There's
Rufus McLean and have played better over the last couple of weeks than Rufus McLean. So I just don't get it. Is it just like Toby Fricker? You've come over to the US, we've given you some time to bed in
that
to
they've decided to make it
select
worth
you.
his while. Yeah.
Mm.
I don't
I mean,
get
I'm a lot happier about the Fricker selection.
Yeah.
but they all seem weird. Julia, you must be pretty mad about this too. What was your take, and how are you feeling right now?
I mean, not to, as the only non-parent, non-human parent on the pod, I feel weird to say this, but I'm not so much mad as I am disappointed. And I say that only because, I butted in. I apologize for butting in. But I butted in with the Izzy Folau situation, and I think of that and how at least among the circles that I run in, it was kind of viewed in retrospect as like an own goal. Like you didn't need to do that. You would have been, I understand. And actually, if we were to compare them, like Izzy Folau was a better player, let's be honest. But even still, was it such that without him, something catastrophic would have happened? Was there absolutely nobody else who could have done what he did? No. That's definitely the case here. And really, Kolia nailed it. Like it's baffling. because, you know, and I have it right here, and I was looking because, you know, I was thinking by my memory, I don't think they were that great, but I'm looking right now, and there are several people that like I would be fine with relying on for wing over him.
Yeah.
It's not for lack of talent, and I feel like more than just how distasteful it is about him as a person, like distasteful person. Not only that, but it signals to the rest of the world that we are so unconfident in our pipeline otherwise that there is no
Yep.
way that we could, and you know, I'm not trying to go down the road that is very popular in our rugby world right now, especially unfortunately it happens to be in Scotland, but the endless debate over whether, you know, homegrown is best grown, whether they
Yes.
had to have, whether they had to have been born in, and you know, born in and or
The
played.
nucification.
Exactly. But you know, when you think of that debate, you think of Scotland first, and it just so happens that this is Scott that came here. And you know, I've been paying attention to what's been going on social since it was announced, and all I'm seeing a lot of is like the grimiest people in rugby commentary being like, well, you know, maybe USA couldn't do better. Like maybe this is just what they do. And there's no need to like give ammunition to there is a large populate, you know, it not, I guess not large respectively, but there is a population in the rugby world that like thinks we can't do it. And
Yeah.
I feel like falling back on like that.
Yeah.
Well,
And
sorry, go
Why
ahead.
open the door?
sorry. And we'll get
No,
into this more next week when we do a deep dive into the selection itself. But
Absolutely.
there are several just absolutely strange selections in there.
yeah. Baffling
And it
is a word I think is going to come up a lot.
and it makes you unduly, well, I feel unduly, and in fact we're going to talk about an event that we just held that makes me feel really confident about the pipeline process
Yeah,
in
yeah.
USA Rugby. It makes you doubt that, and I feel like for all the work that USA Rugby as a structure, and then also organizations within rugby in the USA have been doing to really project the development and strength that we've been building, which especially on the men's is absolutely true. Like we are building depth. Own goal. That's all I can think.
Well, in the lead up, you know, we were all chatting, and I hinted at my four sadnesses about this whole thing.
Yeah.
The main one, the in many ways the only important one, is his former partner, whose life was indescribably screwed up,
Ruined.
and the radiations went out. It was a rippling concentric circle effect to her family, her friends, and it's my understanding those things are still kind of happening now. That is the most important thing. The second
You
sadness I
wouldn't have
had
the court order otherwise.
is how does Rufus McLean think this is what a man should be like nowadays? Rufus McLean was born in Chestnut Hill, which is not far from where I grew up, and it kills me that the male role models he had or whatever made him think this is how you treat a person. It made him think this is what love is about. This is what relationships are about. It's baffling. The next thing is that the USA clearly feel we're so desperate, as you've already kind of implied, that we need somebody like that despite all these things.
And it's
And
misleading.
my fourth sadness is I'm convinced there was a meeting room where a bunch of American executives got together and somebody said, "Hey, uh, you know, if we select Rufus, it could be a PR nightmare. It could be that people are really mad about it." And I am sure somebody else at the table said, "It's America.
It
Nobody
won't
knows who
matter.
he is. It won't matter. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody will care." Those four things kill me so much. It's, you know, anyway, it was my goal to get the Rufus McLean out of the air because it's just hanging there. As Coley mentioned, we're going to do a bit of a deep dive, more of a positive dive into the Eagles squad announcement. There are good things to be seen there, but
There's a lot of good.
you know, any last thoughts from either of you about the way that USA Rugby has handled this?
I think it's unfortunate that this has to overshadow. And you just mentioned there's going to be a deep dive that is really going to end up feeling positive. There's a lot to feel positive about the growth in USA Rugby, and especially for these two Eagles sides, but most especially the men's side. There's a lot to be excited about. I really wish that USA Rugby had felt the same as we do, that this team deserves to have a clean slate to start, because we're about to start investigating a long process and an arcing process towards our home World Cup. There's a lot to be excited about, and I'm just really disappointed that they decided to take that from these men.
Kolia?
Very similar. The only other thing I'd add is when I was seeing the reactions to his call up, there were a bunch of comments. Just wait until USA picks X player who's worse in some
Which is what people,
which is what will start happening if they get away with it this time.
And the conversations will start happening, even if it doesn't happen again, and we can't guarantee it now because the door is open. But either way, like, is that what you want people expecting when you are really trying to build this brand that I think, honestly, we're successfully building otherwise?
It feels very NFL. It's like, say what you will about Ben Roethlisberger, but
right. Say what you will about somebody who said something absolutely terrible, or like something that absolutely alienates.
Well, Deshaun Watson
this alienates women, and women in rugby. We're very blessed that we happen to have a lot of buy-in from women.
Yes.
Why squander
and that's where our biggest market is, and that's where the biggest expansion is. Like, the PR deafness is shocking to me, because a lot of the people I've talked to, in Europe in particular, are impressed with how MLR and specifically is handling the pitfalls that come along with rugby competitions. Like, they've foreseen
it's not
those
elusive
things.
to
They've
us.
avoided
We
them.
know.
Right.
It's not elusive to us. We know what to look for.
We're supposed to have a leg up here. Okay. We'll move on to our reviews. Not a ton to talk about this weekend, except for the MLR conference finals. The WER kind of had a bye weekend.
Tell us, David.
Oh, I may have a couple of comments, but obviously the WER, they're taking a well-deserved rest before they head to Minnesota for the Legacy Cup on Sunday. Kolia, what can you tell us about the MLR this week?
So MLR had two conference finals, the semifinals for the competition itself. And our first one was the New England Freejacks against the Chicago Hounds.
I've heard of them.
By the New England Freejacks. Although I think we should get the biggest talking point out of the way first.
Okay.
Most of us who were watching it didn't see the last few seconds of the game, which was
and they apologized.
Missed by Hilsenbeck. And
first miss of the night?
Second.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, he missed two. And it just freezes as he's lining up the possible winning penalties to send Chicago to the final. And it goes away, and then it comes back, and the commentators apologize because they didn't know what happened either, because they weren't there.
It's the single worst
special.
possible outcome.
It's the MLR special.
Yeah,
it was like a triple whammy of whoops. Yeah.
In fact,
but we're definitely gonna get new fans now. Definitely.
From what I understand, most people found out the outcome of that kick from social media.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really not ideal. Not ideal.
The commentators found out about it from social media.
Oh, they're like, hold on, I'm refreshing.
Yeah. and the sad part is it takes away from an absolutely brilliant match.
That's the thing. In person, it was one of the most exciting matches I've ever seen, by far.
Yeah. So
we did get the benefit of having David there screaming for us.
Yes. So to kind of walk through the match, it starts with Chicago coming out all guns blazing.
Oh, yes.
Up 10-0 at halftime. They get an early try and could have really iced it in the first half with an intercept by Campbell, who gets dragged down right before the line by
NFL style punch out, Paula Balacana,
Paula Balacana.
whose name they spelled wrong on the big screen for the second time in a row this week, by the way. They added an L. I'm like, we're home. You can't spell Paula Balacana?
Oof. Yeah.
We got problems.
Yes. Yes. And then second half, New England comes back, pulls into the lead, stays in the lead. But I do want to talk about one other little event that happened in this match. There's around the 60th minute mark, Abel, the prop from Chicago, gets the ball in his hands inside his own try zone and just whacks it 40 meters. Andrew,
You mentioned this before we started recording. You're right. It was incredible.
Clip this. If you are listening to this, clip this and put it on YouTube. It was amazing.
Well, if you watch the top 14, it was the weekend for props. So
Yes.
maybe that was it. There was something. Maybe it's a lunar cycle. I'm not quite sure.
Mm-hmm. So
it was one of the most amazing games I've ever seen in person. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. What were your thoughts being there? Seeing
it
just gotten
seemed
the call up to the USA, go up for that penalty.
We're so, Freejacks fans are used to us coming through when it needs to be. It's happened in the second, 2 seasons in a row. We were down 17-0 and everyone around me was starting to look a little nervous, but much less nervous than I thought they should have been. And I thought, oh, yeah, we're not really that nervous. And so here's my little insight from being there in person. So, and American listeners will understand this vibe. The two people on my right are active current college level coaches who I've discovered have their own podcast, but we might get into that later.
Jared and
Ben? What's up, Jared and Ben? The people on my left don't care about rugby and don't even understand rugby. They're just
they found us in the parking lot.
They're Boston area sports fans.
Yeah.
So they go to 6 Red Sox games and 6 Celtics games and 2 Patriots games, and they're season ticket holders for the Freejacks. And as soon as the WER existed, they bought all the home.
Did they went to Banshees as well?
Oh yes.
Fantastic.
Oh, yes.
Love to hear.
They don't understand rugby, but they want to go see it and they want to be there.
Present.
And I love
You've got 2 pro teams, man. Why not?
So like in the second half, around the 50-minute mark, Kyle Sequeira comes in. Kyle Sequeira is a Freejack stalwart. We love him. He's a local boy. He's from Connecticut via Rhode Island, via Mystic to the Freejacks. He's one of those guys who's like, he shouldn't have made it, but he did. When he earned his starting jersey in the front row, he's just held on to it ever since until he had to fight through an injury that has lasted like 11 months or something. So he's back. Ben and Jared, they don't like Kyle. When we're sitting there and Kyle comes out, all the comments are like, lose some weight, Kyle. Don't knock it on, Kyle. Try not to drop it, Kyle. And they're yelling at him. And but the people on my left, Gretchen in particular, is not happy about it. And she'd had a couple. So Kyle comes on around the 50-minute mark, and they're like, too soon, no, Kyle, and
no, Kyle.
Gretchen is like, excuse me, and like shoves me out of the way and is like, you two,
you listen here.
It's enough. We love Kyle. You can't do this anymore. And if we score the next 2 tries in a row, I need both of you to apologize to me, and each of you needs to give me 2 high fives. And they were like, okay. What happened next? We score the next 2 tries. Kyle makes a great play. She's like, ah, they're giving high fives. And then from then on, we knew where it was going. It just seemed like that was the Freejacks magic, and it all went from there. That last kick, though, like I thought, Collier just corrected me that it wasn't his first miss. I thought he had nailed every single one, and we're all just sitting there like, there's no way he can be perfect all night. Sure enough, it doinks off the post. It wasn't a miss, it was a doink, even better than a miss. I've never seen the place in such pandemonium. It was an incredible, incredible day. So good.
Yeah. Really happy for you there. So we then had our second game that night.
Oh yeah.
Utah Warriors against Houston Sabercats. And this was a wild match that went very, very badly for Utah very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So it was incredibly windy. The opening kickoff goes right into touch. And then Houston scores a very, very quick try. And then Utah's best player gets hurt.
That was sad.
And then Utah nearly scores, but Houston's winger, Drake Davis, convert from NFL, who we're going to talk about at some point for his problems off the field.
I don't think they're his problems.
Yes. He gets incredibly lucky. He is straight up head on head with the Utah player, and somehow the ref says good play. And from there, he scored an intercept try a little bit after that. And that first half was 21-5 Houston, and they never looked back.
Yeah.
They never looked back.
I'm curious, Kulia, as somebody who spends time officiating, what do you think about the general level of officiating in the MLR? I've, on my own show, I've been trying to remind people like the level of the competition for the players is probably indicative of what you can expect from the officials too. Like we're all learning, right? Like, but do you feel good about it? Do you feel like it's woeful, or do you feel like it's okay for where the league is at?
I actually feel really good about it.
Hmm.
We have some really, really good refs in the MLR, and I really don't like criticizing referees, except when it comes into head contact, where just
Absolutely. 100% agreed.
somehow this got
Yep.
missed. TMO missed it as well. I'm mystified as to how this was missed. Commentary saw it right away.
Right.
Just
Otherwise,
it
there are
was
14 other
weird.
people, there are 15 other people on the pitch that
Yes,
might have contributed to a bad loss. That's all I'll
yes,
put there.
Exactly.
but
Yeah, my
but
section was
yes,
frothing for blood for Federico Anselmi. They do not like him in Quincy, and actually I mentioned it in our chat at one point. So I've mentioned there's coaches on my side, and they're on him. They're on him. I'm not going to repeat the things they say to him,
Nor should
but at
you.
one point. The people on my left kind of thought, "Hey, you missed something," and they were like, "Hey, ref," and he looked up in the audience and he found our section and he said, I called it. It was not rolling away. You need to listen better. And he reprimanded us. He yelled at us.
I
And of
mean,
course, Ben and
it's very
Aaron,
American.
Ben and Jared were like, yeah, he's right.
Yeah,
But
all right.
everyone around us was like, what? But it was a very strange moment. I've never seen that happen before. Like, do you think he's gonna get a reprimand from Major League
I
Rugby about
doubt
that?
I
it.
hope not.
I
I hope not.
yeah, I've
We
Once in a
kind
while,
of
you have
deserved
to.
it.
Once
I've
in a while, you
seen
have
things
to.
like that.
Without a doubt.
Referee abuse is something that happens, and it shouldn't
Yeah,
during a match.
It's one of the things that we pride rugby on. Why would we now throw it away? For
yeah.
no
Yes,
offense, the MLR.
and one thing I say to everyone who starts getting on a ref for having a so-called bad game.
Sure.
Because most of the time when a referee has a bad game, it's something has happened that they weren't planning to look for,
Mm,
where the
Yep,
match has gone a very
absolutely.
different way than they prepared for, and
interesting.
and a
With the tempo's
player
been thrown,
or
yeah.
several players have changed the game plan and have started doing something that the ref didn't prepare for. So what
So
I
the
so what I'd say is go sign up for a ref class. Just go to the
Ref
go,
one, yeah.
just go to or just read through the laws of rugby or take the tests that World Rugby has and try to remember that a ref has to go through all of those and make basically split second decisions on everything going on in a match. Like
well,
again, the only time I will really criticize a referee is with head
This
things,
mistype, yeah.
yeah.
especially when you have a TMO.
Yep. Well, you and I were chatting, off air, and you mentioned it was a great line. You said, and tell me the three things they told him to concentrate on.
Probably not the offside
The
line.
offside line was not
Yeah.
one of them. But what fascinated me was that just that one little insight. Like, is that a typical thing? Is that the refs get told, okay, this is for this match. Here are these three things. Look at these three things. This is what we wanted you to concentrate on. What do you think MLR told him before that match, and what do you think he might have missed?
So it probably wasn't MLR telling him, it was he came in with the game plan of I'm going to focus on these things.
Oh,
And probably based on watching other New England and Chicago matches beforehand. Like there hasn't been, or he probably went through and said there hasn't been much problem with the offside law. So I'm going to focus on things like not rolling away or
oh.
on wheeling the scrum.
Although, if you listen to the crowd,
Yes.
he didn't pay any attention to that either.
Yes.
The number of times I heard "not rolling, sir,"
Mhm.
I'm starting to think American fans just like saying "sir" really, really loudly.
Yes. And rugby gives them a perfect opportunity to do that.
um, okay, as I alluded to, the WER final, the Legacy Cup, is coming on Sunday. It'll be at the Minnesota Vikings training facility, which looks like a pretty great arena in its own right. It'll be the formidable Denver Onyx and my Boston Banshees. Last time we faced the Onyx was on May 24th. We got our butts pretty well kicked, 53-21. It was more than a double up. Julia, I'm hoping desperately you can tell me why I can expect, at least a closer match this weekend. Julia, actually, you're going to be watching this too, I imagine. If,
Yes.
by the way, Julie pointed out to me on a separate text thread, WAR haven't mentioned where we're going to be able to watch this yet. Is it going to be somebody's phone who's in the stadium? Like, do you know where you're going to be watching this?
So I know it's going to be on the WER website,
Yep.
and hopefully they're going to show the curtain raiser, which is a
Oh, right.
grassroots match.
That's right. Tell us about that.
So I just saw this shortly before coming on air, but they're going to have a match before the WER final between, I think it's two local teams.
The Vikings and the Bears. No. I have to say it's an ongoing frustration, and I can't blame them. There's no money there. All the people doing the WER like website are volunteers. Clearly, they're like college interns. I assume it's impossible for them to keep up. But I would love a little more info. It would be nice for these things to be easy.
Sorry, it actually isn't your Banshees, it's New York.
What? They squeaked it out at the. I thought we talked about this last week. Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's the. Oh, that's embarrassing. And I mean, in my defense, it speaks to The fact that you can't just look at their website and discover these things. I thought we talked about this last week.
Yes,
I
yes,
thought,
we did. Boston got a win, but it wasn't enough.
but it wasn't enough. Damn
Yeah.
it.
So looking at stats, Denver is 9-1. They've got bonus points in all of their matches.
Yeah, they're a juggernaut.
Yes, New York has lost 4, one already to Denver, but Denver has
It was
also
their one
lost to
loss.
New York.
The Onyx one loss was
Yes,
against New York.
yes.
That's uh I'm trying to get over my disappointment right now, but that does make for an exciting final. The only team that has
Oh,
found the weak link in this Onyx team
yes.
is
Okay,
their
so
opponent.
yeah. So there's going to, along with the grassroots match beforehand, Women's Elite Rugby is also going to be hosting a free youth clinic open to ages 5 to 18 prior to the match.
I feel like the 18-year-olds are probably going to win.
Yeah. Okay. Julia has just asked us to finish up without her.
Yeah,
So let's do a quick preview of the MLR final, which I
for
think we're
sure.
going to be at.
I'll get her thoughts later. We have two finals coming this weekend. The Legacy Cup. Now that I've, with your help, accurately told us the teams that are competing, who do you see winning the initial Legacy Cup? It's just got to be Denver.
Yeah, I'm thinking Denver. I've got a few friends who are definitely going to be pulling for Denver, who are,
Really?
yeah, I've got a few friends over in Denver,
Huh.
and
Interesting. All my friends will be simply rooting for Denver because they're not New York, the worst city in the United States.
eh,
I love the non-committal response there. Meanwhile, I will
I
be
have more
in
to say about New
Pawtucket.
England.
It is, when you look at the history of MLR, so I was in Chicago 2 summers ago for our defeat of the San Diego Legion. I was not there last summer in San Diego when we defeated the Seawolves. Now we're in Pawtucket. When you think of the great American cities, you think Chicago, San Diego, Pawtucket. But what is your prediction? In fact, do you have any insights or predictions how this is going to go? I think it's going to be close. I'm scared of this Houston team.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. Houston did lose a couple players to injuries in the last 20 minutes of that match on Saturday. So
They did.
we'll see if they're able to make a comeback.
Hopefully, law enforcement will intervene and take a couple of more players away.
They are, as I think you mentioned, trying to become the Montpellier of
Yes.
American rugby, which, as a Texan, I kind of hope that the Texas teams do well. As someone with a bunch of friends in Houston, I hope that I hope that they do well, but I do see New England pulling this out. I'm going to say New England by 4.
Wow, nice. I'm surprised by that. Like I said, I'm scared by this Houston team. I think they're really good. I was shocked that they weren't at home last weekend. I thought Utah were really up and down. I was shocked that they got home field, and so this is going to be our toughest test this year. You never know what's going to happen in a one-off. Jason Patras, we haven't had him most of the year. It's heartbreaking. He, fought so hard and he worked for months and months, came back, appeared in a game, first game in months, and then after I think it was 55 minutes, boom, he gets a knock. And then this weekend, there he was at the stadium there to support us, but he's wearing one of those really like elaborate knee contraption braces. They had him do the before the game started the let's ride over the house PA system and stuff, and he looked sad. It was rough. So I have a lot of fears going into this game. One of which is parking, in fact, because this is a brand new stadium and it's very unclear. But I also predict the Freejacks will win. I'm thinking by 3. I'm going to say 24-21. Kolya, what else do you got on your radar for this summer? Most of the rugby podcasts I listen to are about to go on a major hiatus, and we're not going to have Julia this coming weekend. You and I might want to get together to talk about you know, do more of a deep dive into the USA Rugby selection. But what else are you looking forward to this weekend? You probably have cool things that you're coaching or looking at. What's happening in Texas? What are you looking forward to this summer?
So Texas Grassroots ended with Bloodfest last week. Or
Yep.
so so there's not much going on there. There are the internationals coming up for the US and the build up to the
What are
rugby
we, 4 weeks
for
out?
women.
Something like that?
Yeah. And then I know we started the Grassroots Corner last week.
Yes.
There's another one I want to bring up that I'm going to bring up next week. But this past weekend, right before the Freejacks match, there was the under 23 women's all-stars match at the Freejacks Stadium.
Yep.
And I unfortunately wasn't able to watch it, but if you want, you can go see that on Rugby Pass. Rugby
That's
Pass.
right. The entire thing, that was actually the next day. That was on Sunday. On
That was
Saturday, when I got there really early, the Junior Jacks were playing against a team from Quebec. So it was the uh, more grassroots stuff. Unfortunately, I have no insights. Well, I do know the Free Jacks, the Junior Jacks creamed them because it was 46-7 when I got there. But I love that they do these things. It's with when you have a kid, it's tough to get there hours and hours and hours ahead of time. But I really wish I could. There's sevens tournaments, there's grassroots stuff, there's high school stuff. They really do a good job of it, and I wish I could be more a part of it. But we'll probably figure out how to pay more attention to that stuff during the summer.
Yeah, that's great. And then one other thing from this weekend, and it doesn't officially affect USA Rugby, although a bunch of the players do play in the US,
Mm.
mainly at the grassroots level. We had the championship for Rugby America's North,
Oh, that's right.
which
Great
was
call.
which was won by Mexico 40-15 over Trinidad and Tobago. And,
Wow.
and
That's
they
a
had
great matchup.
yes, and they had a few Texans on their team.
I'm curious, you're in Texas. I'm hearing a lot of buzz about MLR expanding into Mexico, especially Monterrey. Are you hearing any of these things? Do you picture MLR being in Mexico in the next couple of years?
I wouldn't be shocked, and if it is going to show up, I'd bet Monterey. And
Seems
if
like it, right?
so, if Austin or Dallas haven't come back, that would probably become my MLR team.
Yeah.
Because San Antonio is not that far away from Monterey. We've got the
It's
biggest
not.
Monterey expat community in the United States.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, as seen by Monterey or Tigres, the other soccer team in that city, coming to San Antonio pretty frequently to play their matches.
That's so cool. I've told you offline, like my partner's from San Antonio. I've spent a lot of time there. Um, yeah, this all seems very exciting for me. Um, Kolya, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I'm so happy to get our second app under our belts. We've already got some cool plans. We've got ideas for specials, for interviews. Who knows what else? But the enthusiasm is building. Julia, wherever you are, I hope it wasn't too much of a crisis that drew you away from us. But in the meantime, thank you to everybody who tuned in. If you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe. Above all, tell a friend. Thanks to Lee and all the great folks at the Wrap for taking us under their wing and helping us to launch the Mall Street Journal. I really think there's a great place for us in the online rugby sphere. We're already getting some great results. I really appreciate everyone's support. I'm hugely grateful to everyone. Colia, any last thoughts before we call it a day?
Vamos los Pumas.
Yeah. So to all of you, all our new listeners across the globe, cheers. Talk to you soon, and be well.